broadcast right now at 13 minutes before 8 o'clock. He is our adopted congressman from Michigan. That's how far we have to go, folks, to find like-minded individuals if you're a right thinker out here in the Bay Area. Thad McCotter, thank you, Congressman, for joining us out here on the left coast.
Oh, well, thanks for having me back on.
Thanks, Congressman.
Well, Congressman, in so many ways, you know, I am like your brother from another mother, and Melanie is like your sister from another mother. Sister from another mister, I guess we could say, because we all think alike here, and also you're a musician, and I'm a musician. Maybe at some point in time we need to make a little music together.
Well, that'd be great. I'm currently every now and again playing with the band, the Second Amendment's out there in Congress. We play for charities, play for events that help promote awareness. It's a very good band, but we could always use some help. And maybe one day you'll get to meet the other band that I sit in with every now and then, the Screaming Lemurs, where I have my actual brother from our real mother, who plays bass and generally carries the band, according to him.
According to him.
The Screaming Lemurs and the Second Amendments. I just love it. Okay, Congressman, we wanted to speak with you about the real unemployment numbers because, well, today we heard that unemployment filing a little greater than many of the brainiacs were anticipating, but we're looking around the landscape here and it doesn't seem to be in recovery mode.
Well, you're absolutely right, and this is where a fine representative out of California, Representative Duncan down San Diego way, apologies to Mr. Springsteen, he introduced a bill where we want to not recalculate, but just actually put forward what we believe to be a real unemployment number of those people who are unemployed at any given time in the country. Now, it's put out currently, and I don't want to get too technical here, but as you know, the official quote-unquote rate is always lower than the real unemployment rate. And the reason for that is because they take out people who have given up looking for work because the market's so bad for people trying to find jobs. And we think that that's wrong. We think that we should know how many Americans are unemployed. We should know how many people are getting unemployment insurance so that you can make sure that you do the proper policies to try to give them a chance to, again, pursue their American dream.
So what you've put together with some others in Congress is the Real Unemployment Calculation Act. And I think there would be a lot of Americans who would support your efforts to get this thing passed. Tell us about this.
Well, it's H.R. 4128. It's by my colleague Duncan, Republican, again, California. And Duncan, a former Army Ranger, he doesn't have time to mess around. It's a one-page bill. So you can find it.
That.
Yeah, you can find it, you can read it, and it can make sense. Because one of the things that a lot of us can't figure out is government logic. Whether you work for government, whether you work in government, or whether you're a hardworking American, something about Washington just drives people crazy. And here's the logic behind the official unemployment number. If every American lost their job and stopped looking for work, the unemployment rate officially would be zero. You can't.
That doesn't make any sense.
Because
when you put it in those terms, suddenly we get how bogus these numbers are, Congressman.
Right, and that's why Duncan introduced the bill and was kind enough to let me co-sponsor it, to make sure that we know how many people are actually unemployed, because it's better to have hard facts in front of you to address than to have fantasies.
How come I guess this goes along with this, but the question I have is, it seems like lately, in the last 6-7 months now, every time they issue the numbers, they have to do a revise on the numbers, and it's always much worse than they said it was before.
Right, and what the Hunter bill is trying to do is not asking them to recalculate any numbers that they're doing now. The Bureau of Labor Statistics already collects the numbers of people who are discouraged and not looking for work. What he just wants to do is to make that, if the combined numbers of those who are discouraged and those who are still looking, the actual number. Because it's very frustrating for people to find out that X number of jobs were created, and yet because more people are going back into the workforce, no longer discouraged by the climate, that somehow the number stays the same. Or they could have a situation where a bunch of numbers go down, where job opportunities decrease, and yet the unemployment rate decreases because people get discouraged. It's very frustrating, and again, it does not help with good public policy, or more importantly, for people who are looking for work to get an accurate gauge of the economic climate in which they're trying to find employment.
Congressman Thad McCotter with us from Michigan. Congressman, when did we start changing the way in which we calculated these figures and presented them accordingly to the public?
I believe it was around 1994. 1994, 1990.
My goodness, who was in office back then?
Well,
That would be President Clinton.
Well, I think that what I think you have to keep in mind, as Duncan has been very clear to point out, is we don't want this to be a partisan measure. Because already there are some Democrats that think, oh, you're just doing this to embarrass the president. Well, the reality is it can embarrass anybody who wants to be embarrassed, Republican or Democrat. But what it really is a gauge for people to know what's going on when they go look for work, about the difficulty that there will be. You don't want people to get false hope that the economic climate is better than it is. You don't want policymakers to be able to pretend that it's better than it is. What you want is the truth. And I think that Duncan Hunter's idea gives a more accurate picture of what the truth is about our economic conditions.
And I'm curious, Congressman, when we look at these present numbers as they're presented to us on a monthly basis, kids coming out of college who have yet to find work, the construction guy who's just does remodels for a living and he hasn't worked for 3 months, those types don't show up in the figures, do they?
Well, they can show up depending on how they're calculated. And the problem becomes, especially for young people, is that they really need an accurate gauge as they're making their decisions, not just when they come out of college, but when they're in college or before they go to college, so they can know what to major in. They know which career path they wish to choose to pursue. Those are the types of numbers that are not just, although they are immediately put forward, they can help with long-term planning for young people. And you don't want, as young people today have found out, to expect the market for your skills to be better than it is and train and wind up with no opportunities or very few that you have to compete for. You'd like to see a robust economy into which you'd like to participate. And one of the things that I like to remind young people today is that you have to be very careful what you vote for, because there's a lot of young people are finding out there is a place for them in Obama's economy. It's called their parents' basement.
Oh, no. That's not happening in my case. That kid is not coming back to my basement if it's the last thing that happens.
Well, Representative McCotter, we love educating, motivating, and activating our audience, and you've done a great job of doing that this morning. The Real Unemployment Calculation Act, we're going to get the word out, and we'll help you, sir, because this is a smart idea for America.
Well, thank Duncan Hunter for that, and let's try to get it done.
Right on. Thank you, Congressman. Appreciate you here on KSFO, and now